Today I am taking a second mortgage out on the house and building a planter for the front door. Hey guys, how's it going? So, one of the weirdest things about this house is the old decommissioned chimney sticking out of the front of my house. I have no idea what it was supposed to connect to, maybe a fireplace the previous owners had in the basement, but this house was flipped before we bought it, so who knows? I have no idea. Anyway, Danielle wanted to put a planter here to pretty it up a little bit, so instead of putting a plan together and figuring something out, we went out and spent $100 on a few 8-foot cedar 1x6s and a 8-foot cedar 2x2 and didn't really plan or figure anything out. Perfect. To get started, I take the 2x2 over to the miter saw and lop it into 4 15-ish inch segments. Then over at the table saw, I tilt the blade to 45 degrees and rip the segments in half. Back at the miter saw, I set a stop for the fronts and backs of the boxes and cut the 1x6s into 12 segments and repeat the process for the 12 sides. Now back at the table saw again, I set the blade back to 90 and clean up both edges of all of the boards, just to clear up the rough edges since they were a little bit beat up. Moving on to assembly, using glue and staples, I attach both sides of the short sides to the corner brackets, and with those done, I can attach the long panels to the 2 short assemblies using the same method. I didn't really put much thought into the bottoms. I basically just stapled in 2 boards to cover. I wasn't too concerned about leaving gaps since that would just work as drainage anyway. That's pretty much it for the boxes. Let's see how they look. I like it. With the planter boxes done, I move on to the trellis. Oh yeah, I'm putting a trellis on this as well. What I didn't end up recording was cutting a couple of the 1x6s into 1.5 inch wide strips. So instead, let's just jump straight to the miter saw and cut those strips into length. With the strips cut to length, I mark out center on all of them and lay them all flat. Then using the router sled rail as reference, that project is still in progress and I didn't feel like messing with it, so I just worked around them. I line up all of the strips square, line up a spacer, set the uprights on both sides, and glue and staple the first rail into place. Then using a 6-inch spacer between the rails, I can move the assembly along and tack in each new strip as I go. I realized after I glued and stapled in the first strip that I wouldn't be able to glue in the rest of them using this method, so I just didn't worry about it. With the last strip in place, I lined up and centered in the center upright. Then I flipped the whole unit over and threw in another staple through the front as well, just for good measure. Since this is going to be screwed to the inside of one of the boxes, I glued and stapled in a backer piece to the top of the back side of the trellis to better brace it against the wall of the chimney thing. With the unit fully assembled, it's time for finish, where I went with Helmsman spar urethane, which I would have much preferred a spray can of, since getting on every side of this trellis, because all 6 sides are exposed, took forever. I looked for it in a can, but I couldn't find anything local or anything that wasn't $50 a can, which was ridiculous. I already spent how much on wood. I did find another brand of spray spar urethane, so for the latter coats I did use that instead, and it went from 75 minutes to 8 minutes per coat. So, spraying is better. With the finishing done, it's time for install, which really was just drop in place and then nail the top of the trellis into the chimney thing. I was going to go with a screw, but when the previous owners re-sided the house, they just went right over top of the existing old style rock/aggregate stucco, which takes forever to send a screw through. So, nail it was. And with that, we consolidated some of our older, dead planter pots, added in some more dirt, and Danielle got some annuals planted. And with that, this project is done. This was a pretty quick project. I'd say about a half a day outside of waiting for finished dry time. I could have spent a lot more time jointing, flattening, planing, sanding, but I figured for this project it would be diminishing returns. I could be wrong, but I'm really not that concerned. I'm really happy with how it did come out, and it makes a bit of a feature out of something that was just a bit of a weird quirk in the house. And with that, I'm going to call it a video. Thank you all for watching, and if you like what I'm doing here, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. If you have any questions or comments, I look forward to reading them in the comment section below. And if you want to see more up-to-date projects, you can always follow me on Instagram at John the Shriner. Otherwise, I hope to see you in the next video, and have a good one.